Hello, everybody. I'm Ben True, and I'm taking over the New York Roadrunners Instagram account today. And I am currently about to brew myself a cup of coffee because I basically can't do anything without coffee, and it's a pretty big passion of mine. I'm going to do a little brew tutorial and answer some people's questions. So I am going to, here I'll switch the camera. First thing I do is I weigh out my beans because make sure you have the right ratio of beans to water. And I personally like a 1 to 16 ratio, but anywhere between a 1 to 15 to 1 to 17 is great, which means 1 gram of coffee for every 16 milliliters of water. So I am going to measure out 22 grams of coffee here. This coffee is a Burundi coffee that was roasted by Ryan Linden. I don't know if people have been hearing the thing of Des Linden and Ryan Linden, as well as myself and my wife, Sarah, and how we are creating a coffee company and starting to roast a coffee called Linden and True Coffee. This is a testing out of the bean, the Burundi number 1. So we'll be drinking that today. Sorry if the grinder is quite loud. So always want to freshly grind your coffee because grinding earlier allows too much air to get there, and you'll start losing a lot of the flavors, and a lot of the it'll start going staler much faster. So you always want to brew right before you're about to drink. And best grinder would be a burr grinder, not a blade grinder, because it makes a more uniform grind of coffee. You see here, I have this little sifter thing, and what I did was I put some coffee in it earlier and sifted it, and what that does is it will show you how the coffee should be. So right here is in the middle sifter. This is what the consistency that you want the coffee to be for a pour over. Whereas you want to get rid of all the fines, which will make a over extracted bitter coffee. And you want to get rid of all the very coarse bits, the boulders they called, which will be under extracted and not make us good coffee. So this is a V60 brewer, and it's named so because it's a V shape and it's a 60-degree angle. So yeah, the more you know. So always want to rinse out the paper filter so you can get out that flavor of the paper, and you will get rid of the water. And now you will brew the coffee. So coffee goes in. You want your water to be right here around 203, 202, a little over 200 Fahrenheit. You don't want it to be boiling. Best practice, if you don't have one that has the actual temperature, is to make it boil and then allow it to sit off boil for about 3 minutes. So we'll do the first pour, and what the first pour you do is called the bloom. And what you do is you put about 3 times as much water as you do coffee, have coffee grinds in there, and you let it be in there for about 30 to 45 seconds. And what this bloom does is it wets all the coffee grinds and allows for the coffee to be more evenly extracted, but also allows to release some of the CO2 in the coffee, which is in there from roasting. So you always want to bloom your coffee. The longer the bloom, for the fresher the coffee. So if it's super fresh coffee, just roasted, you want to bloom for more like 45 seconds. If it's like a 2-week-old coffee, you can bloom it more for 30 seconds. Then you want to continue adding your water, making sure you wet all the coffee. So since I put 22 grams of coffee in, I want about 360 milliliters of water. So I do 2 small pours to make sure it's more even. And then I will finish the pour at 360. So you don't want to go all the way to the edges because you don't want the water to slide down the side of the cup and not touch the coffee bed at all. So now we wait as it brews. And then once it brews, I will start answering any questions you have for me, whether it be coffee related or running related or anything else related. Usually as it gets down near the end, you want to give it a little swirl like that to make sure that the coffee bed is perfectly level and that it's getting an even extraction and you're not getting gutters and different formations of the coffee grinds that aren't what you want for proper extraction. So yeah, it's pretty simple. Doing something like this will dramatically make the coffee taste better than just a one of those coffee pod machines or even like a Mr. Coffee pour over machine, which doesn't have a very good job of wetting all the grinds properly. So you want to aim for about a 2:30 to 3 minute total pour draw time. So we're at 2:40 just as all the water leaves, and that is perfect. And there you go. That is the coffee. And time to enjoy.